back. Well, what have we got today? Well, I was taking a look at my guitar collection, actually, and I was just wondering, how much guitars have gone up in value or down in value since I bought them, so to speak, against the sort of money that, well, anybody could have paid, and against the highest price that you could sort of get for them today. Yeah, it's a good thought, and it's not one that that many people have thought about, I think. Well, I'm no mine of useless information, am I? Well, the thing is, you don't have to trust me. You can trust Vintage Guitar. Remember these? Anybody seen them? You will have in America, sure, but maybe across the UK, maybe you haven't seen them. But here they are, and this is a 2021 model, for want of a better phrase. But I've got here a 2009 one. And in fact, although I haven't got them all out, they're over there in the cupboard. They go from 2009 to 2021, and I have absolutely every one of them. So what I decided to do was to go and have a look at the guitars I've got and select a number of guitars that were more expensive than were less expensive generally. Doesn't cover them all, but I've got the cheap ones in as well. No, I haven't really. I've got a couple of, well, the odd cheaper one in there, let's put it that way, and I've got a number of brands. Now, I can only work on the brands. I suppose I could have gone and looked at any brand, or any model, but I looked at the brands that I own, because I can relate to that the most, and you would to yours. And the models of guitars I covered that I actually own is a Gibson Jimmy Page from 1995, a Les Paul, PRS Dragon 3 that I recently actually did sell, and you'll see why in a minute. PRS Dragon 2002, an Ibanez 7VWH, which is the Steve Vai model, a Fender Strat from 2008, which is an American standard. I thought I'd just throw that in for good measure. And I've also got a Gibson Les Paul custom shop, which is the sort of one with the quilting on the top. Yeah, you'll know it. You've probably seen it in my videos if you're a guy who watches my videos. Oh, you don't? Oh, you don't know what you're missing, do you? Tell him, everyone. You see, some of these guitars absolutely cost a fortune, and even the cheap ones cost a fortune for some guys. I can understand that, and I can equate to that entirely. But it's usually the sort of collector types of guy, or maybe he might be a player, but he doesn't play it all the time, that buys these sort of guitars. Yeah. Some of them you could play all the time, like the Fender Strat, the American standard from 2008. I'm sure loads of people got them. But if you sit back, and I'll bet you never have, you wouldn't have got all the books out like I have and been through, the different years of whether they've gone up or whether they've gone down, or whether they've this or whether they've that. You won't have gone through that. Or at least I can't find people on YouTube, at least, that have done that. Yeah. And the conclusions are actually very startling, and they're very sobering as well, especially if you own some of that gear. So I'm going to run you through what I found, and I'm not biased towards or against any brand, by the way. That's just before I even start. They're not my figures, they're the figures from Vintage Guitar since 2009, taking different ones into account and arriving at some answers. How I plan to proceed is like this. I'm going to put a picture on the screen over there of my particular guitar, the one I own. It's not like something where I've randomly gone and just chosen any old guitar. Yeah, and down below here, across the bottom of this screen, here, so to speak, you're going to see this chart broken off for each guitar. And the typical figures. Well, actually, let me talk about the figures just before we go further. What I actually did was to take the 2011 price and the 2009 price and the 2014 and the 2021 price. And I took the earliest price that I've bothered to go to and the latest price, and I've subtracted one from the other, however it worked out. And on the end column here we've got a plus or minus on where you stand with the value of that particular guitar. And it's all based around vintage guitars. So anything I'm saying would be therefore the maximum that you could lose. Well, no, not the maximum you could lose, the maximum you could make if you do make any money. On the lose side, you could lose an awful lot more, especially if you threw your guitar around. Remember that. These are all for guitars that are as mint. Now, just for clarity, before I move on, we want to talk a little bit about the prices you see on Reverb and eBay and all them other places that, well, have you ever noticed how high the prices are? The prices are substantially, generally higher than a vintage guitar. Now, you can tell me that vintage guitar hasn't got a clue. You could say that. Or you could tell me, oh, the guys on Reverb and eBay haven't got a clue. Or it could be a mix of all of them. But to be honest, because these guys have been doing this for so long, I tend to trust vintage guitar more than I trust Reverb, or that I trust eBay, or any of the others. So those prices, what you'll see on the Reverbs and the eBays, those guitars will still be there in 3 months' time, unless you've got somebody who's desperate for money. But when they're desperate for money, that price won't be up there. It'll be down here. And the down here is probably the lowest that they'll take. That's just a guess. Anyway, let's move on to the guitars. And I just wanted to cover that. So the first one is a Gibson Jimmy Page Les Paul. It's up there now. That's from 1995, and that cost me, in 1995, about $3,600 to $3,700. That was about what I paid for it. But back in 1995, they were probably cheaper. Yeah, that's a guess. The fact is, by the time you got to 2011, they were worth $5,000 at that time. And by the time you got to 2014, there's the list across there, you can see that they were worth $6,600. Top price, top highest price that this company says they're worth. And in 2021, believe it or not, they're still worth $6,500. So they've lost $100, even though you know what's gone on and I know what's gone on between 2014 and 2021, and it still continues. So what was the net result for me on the guitar that I bought at that time? Bear in mind, it has been played, but it's particularly good condition. I gained $3,000. Yeah, just by buying it in the first place. But the really good news is I also had the benefit of using that guitar, although it was looked after. And that $3,000 in England is £3,000, because every figure I've quoted you in England turns into pounds. So when I was quoting $6,600 in 2014, that would have been £6,600. Make no mistake. Yeah, so that guitar, right from the off, was worth buying. What do you think? I do. In fact, it's one of the best buys I've ever made of any brand. That's something to think about when people knock Gibson. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. Here it is. Incredible guitar. It was bought basically in its box as new, literally unplayed. Still had the same strings on that came from PRS, and that cost approximately $20,000. It's a PRS Dragon 3 from 1994, and trust me, it was as good the day I sold it as the day it came out of the factory. That's how good it was. Okay, so $20,000, but its new price was probably nearer $30,000 because they only made about 100. Yeah, expensive. The thing is, in 2011, it was worth $19,000. Right? 2009, it was worth $20,000. So it lost $1,000 in that 1 year. I couldn't really figure why. When I was looking at the Dragon 1, that had this really high price. The Dragon 3 was a high price, make no mistake, but that moved down $1,000 for no apparent reason. In 2014, that very same guitar, still in its box, still absolutely unplayed, was now worth $14,000. So that's a $6,000 hit in a matter of just a few years. And of course, PRS would sell out. Well, they just sell out. So PRS didn't really, have anything to do with it after that. But in 2021, what do you think that guitar is worth? A PRS Dragon 3, completely unplayed, in its box, as from the factory. Well, let me tell you, it's worth $10,000. Yes, just $10,000. That's a long cry from the probably $25,000 to $30,000 that it would have been marked up to, brand new, and some person would have gone and paid that, probably. So what's the net result of that guitar? Well, the net result of that guitar right there, from personal experience, is a loss of $10,000. Yeah, or you could have said £10,000 had it been in England. A loss of $10,000. Ask yourself why anybody would buy it. Well, there's a very good reason. We'll come to that later after we've ran through these guitars. Okay, the next one is another PRS. I like PRSs. I've owned loads of them, off and on. Yeah, some very expensive ones, including this one up here. You can see it. That's an awesome guitar. It's very heavy though. It's a PRS Dragon 2002. And I didn't buy this new, I bought it second hand actually. And I paid about $10,000 for it, an equivalent in pounds, back some years ago. I forget the exact date, but it was some years ago. And at that time, in 2009, it said it was worth $16,000. Yeah, $16,000. So it was a good deal for me, and I know it was. Yeah, you can see the list across the bottom of the stuff that I've done, and you'll get an idea of what's coming up as we go through it. In 2014, that guitar, in 2011, that guitar had come down to $15,000. So that had also lost $1,000. In 2014, that guitar continued down to $13,000. But the most scary thing of all, and it really is scary, not for me because I couldn't care less, but you might own one. Yeah, what's really scary is 2021. In 2021, believe it, that guitar right there on the screen right now has a maximum price of $8,500. Or you could say £8,500. We'll call it dollars because I'm generally working here. Which means it's a loss of $6,500 minimum. Yeah. Actually, it's more than that. Not against what I paid. Forget what they valued at, but against what I paid, I lost $6,500. That's what I meant to say. A bit confusing, some of this stuff. There's a lot of it. So Is that a good guitar to buy? Bear in mind there's only 100, and you know, very rare guitar. Beautiful looking guitar. Weighs a ton, by the way. But there it is. $6,500 loss. Or had you bought it originally, it's about an $8,000 loss. Yeah. If you'd have bought it at $16,000, that is. Not at the $29,000 that it was when it was new. Oh, you paid $29,000 when it was new. Oh, you bought that prototype from Norway or wherever it was. Silly fool you. Let's move on to the next one. Now, this is another guitar that's, there's a fair few of them around, but not in really great condition, especially the old ones, I think. And here it is, it's up on screen now. And that's an Ibanez 7VWH. Now, I've had this one since about 2000 or 1999, something like that. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. Well, I paid for it at that time. I paid about $1,400, $1,500, I think. I could stretch it to $1,500. There it was. They were worth, they said, in 2009, they said they were worth $2,000. So it was a pretty good deal for me at the time. Now in 2011, the price in the books was $1,700. And remember, these prices are the absolute maximum you're going to get at that time. In 2014, it had gone up $50. Yeah, $1,750. And in 2021, it's now worth $2,000. So that actually makes, compared to where I stood with it, it makes $250 or £250 from when I first bought it. And of course I've played that guitar, but again, it's absolutely pristine. So that's another one I've made on. So I've made on 2 and I've lost on 2. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad, am I? Or am I? Wait until we see. Now I brought this next one up. There it is. It's a Fender Stratocaster, an American standard from 2008, and I bought it brand new from a guitar shop down in London. I'd bought an Ibanez, which really was crap. It was one of the Korean things, and I took it back and I said, listen, I need a real guitar. And they'd come out the back and they said, oh, I've just had the Strat in, this is the new model. And at that time, in England at least, that was the new model. It was a Stratocaster, as I said, 2008. I paid about $1,100 for that. And in 2009, believe it or not, it was worth $950. So I took an immediate hit, but you would. In 2011, it had gone down in value to $800. But in 2014, it had gone up back up a little bit to $875. So I've kept it since 2008, and I've gained some of my money back, but not all. And in 2021, I'm pleased to say, very pleased to say, that it's worth $1,000 now. So I rate that as losing $100 for having it for nearly 15 years. Well, probably 15 years. 8, 16, yeah, 15 years. So I lost on it. But bear in mind, it's a really nice, well looked after guitar. Very well looked after guitar. All my guitars are. So that's another one I lost on. So let's move on. Now this last one, to be fair, isn't so easy to track through the books. These books. They have slightly different names and slightly different this and slightly different that. But I've averaged it out as best I can, and I think this is a fair reflection of where it stands today. So that's the point. But the actual figures are out of these books. I have to keep stressing that. Well, here it is, up on the right. Now this is a Gibson Les Paul Custom from the Custom Shop. And this is the one with the quilt top. I couldn't find the exact model. Not the exact model. I could find the Gibson Les Paul Custom Shop, so I used that. It's pretty much the same. In fact, it says on. You couldn't get any better than that. Well, I paid, at the time for that, a few years ago, I paid $3,800 for that guitar. Yeah, there it is. In 2009, for the particular follow through of the custom, they were worth $2,500 in the used guitar market, remember. And $3,800 is what I paid. And I can tell you now, I bought that guitar from PMT in the UK, and you couldn't buy one of those any cheaper from anywhere at the time, a few years back. In 2011, they were sort of worth, according to this, $3,000. So, not so good. And in 2014, they were worth $3,000, funnily enough. And in 2021, you've guessed it, they were worth $3,000. So nothing moved on that guitar. It was totally, completely flat all the way through. But because of what I paid, I lost $800. Or pounds, you could say, if you wanted to convert everything to pounds. So that's a very interesting little rundown of 6 guitars chosen honestly at random, but some of them because they were very expensive, so we could see how things move in the marketplace. Now then, it's a very interesting graph, well, not a graph, but a list or a table that shows the pluses and the minuses of different guitars, and the overall net result from buying these guitars, of which I have actually only sold one. The net result is a minus of £14,150. Sorry. It's pounds in England, just trust me on this. So dollars where you are, if you're in America, and pounds in England of 14,150, which is a shocking figure, bearing in mind the majority of these guitars are sold as collector's instruments and unique and all the rest of it. And factually, and I mean factually, in most cases, I can say in most cases, yeah, I think I'm right, most cases, out of the 6 guitars, 4 of them actually lost some money, and some of them substantial money. There were very, very few gains, and the gains purely offset the loss. Had I treated all the losses from new and added everything up in the way I really should, it's probably a 20 grand loss. Yeah. Now, of course, there's all the naysayers out there that'll say he's talking rubbish. They're like that. That's the internet. That's the beast. And then you'll have a lot of manufacturers maybe turning around and saying, "Oh, that guy's an idiot. You know, he's an idiot. What does he know?" Well, what he knows is this is fact. This isn't something that I've just said. And if you want to contest vintage guitar, well, I think that wouldn't be a reasonable thing to try and do, bearing in mind they go back, I think, into the 80s even. They've got this database that they update literally every year from dealers and all the rest of it. So I would say that these guys are pretty accurate in their assessment of the equipment that I've happened to just pull out randomly and check. So if you think you've got some of these guitars, any of these guitars in fact, and you're shocked at the price that I've mentioned on here today in January 2021, well, you're going to have an even bigger shock if you think your guitar's worth more than that, because I have to say, I don't think it is. It becomes very, very difficult to sell if you're going to sell it for anything higher than what you see in these books, unless there's some obscure reason like Jimi Hendrix owned it or whatever. But you ain't got any of them, have you? Neither have I. So for the average collector or average guitarist that really likes what he does and collects nice guitars to play as well, that's a bit like me. You're in for a shock if you didn't already know, and I think you might find you didn't already know. In 2021, yeah, The whole thing is due to a reset. Now, where have you heard that word before? A reset. Yeah, I think the music business, from start to finish, you can go ask any of the gigging musicians, they're making nothing except making stupid videos. I don't know, they can do that, but that won't earn the money that those people are used to, will it? Or you can go and ask the guitar shops, which will, I hate to say it, some of them will lie through the teeth and offer you even less, which is just scary. So that's an opinion, and I just wonder what anybody thinks about that. Yeah, I think it's a very reasonable reflection of the current situation. So could they continue down these guitars? Do you know what? I think they could. I think the days of $30,000 guitars right now are few and far between. I think they've got great asking prices, but I think the sell price isn't that. And that goes for every brand, wherever the brand is. You know, if they're asking $7,000 or $10,000 for a guitar, I don't think they get it. In fact, I'd be pretty sure they don't, because there's a lot of concern out there in the minds of ordinary people, you know, the people that actually do the buying, not these artists that get them for free. Now, I do think that this particular little video, our little chat here, should make people think a little bit, and some of you guys will be saying, oh, he's totally wrong. Well, put it down in the bottom down there and tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why this company here, Vintage Guitar, that should know more about guitars than you'll ever know, or me, is wrong. Tell me why they're wrong. And if you think they're not wrong, you think the figures are too high, well, tell me that also. And you can give me examples, real life examples, but your examples have got to be as of 2021 really, because that's what the book was about. The latest book is 2021, not 2020 or 2017. It has to go by the times of now. How you go and get that information, I don't know, but going looking on Reverb is not the answer, because that is, well, the prices on there, on the likes of Reverb and eBay and the other places that you and I know, well, they're all anecdotal, aren't they? They're not actually the figure, are they? Of course they're not. No, they're what they want, and they always price them high, don't they? On the hopes that some person will come along and pay some ridiculous price. That's what they do, and you might get a good deal, and they'll take 10% off, and these only 10% over or 20% over the real price. It's a lot to think about. So I'm going to leave you with this video now. I think it is an eye opener. It's opened my eyes, even my eyes, when I actually went and did this. I was most surprised at some of the prices that are in there, but I do believe it. So until next time, oh, and by the way, don't forget to go and have a look at www.tonymackenzie.com. It's down there in the text. And if you want to go and complain to Vintage Guitar, please do. I'm sure they'll set you straight. Great bunch of guys, actually. So until next time, go and have a think of what I said, and I'd sell it if I was you. Now get out of here.